Well, hey everyone, and welcome to Get Your Geek On's Marvel Cinematic Universe Retrospective. I'm Robert, that's Aaron. We're here to talk movie by movie through the MCU's Infinity Saga. We got 23 movies across 11 years.
Expect spoilers, guys, as we get into each movie, but we will start off each video letting you know whether we consider this an essential movie for the overall arc of the MCU. Think of this as your guide to getting to the MCU.
Right. And there's going to be some filler movies. 23 movies is a lot of movies. There's going to be some that maybe aren't essential, but if you're completionist like me, you're probably going to go, they're all essential. I got to watch them all. Gotta catch them all. All right, so we're talking today about 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy. This is directed by James Gunn. Made $94 million opening weekend, $770 million over its run. Actually outperformed The Winter Soldier, which came out earlier in 2014, by just a little bit. The movie features Chris Pratt as Peter Quill / Star-Lord. You've got Zoe Saldana in there as Gamora. Bradley Cooper is the voice of Rocket. Dave Bautista as Drax. Vin Diesel as the voice of Groot. Then you've got Lee Pace and Karen Gillan are playing our villains, Ronan and Nebula. And Michael Rooker in there as Yondu Udanta. So we got a star-studded cast. So before we get into spoilers or anything, we are going to talk right now. Is this movie essential? Aaron, go.
Duh. This one is very essential, I think.
Yeah.
This, to me, I mean, I know we've had the other movies, and we've talked about them, if you've been keeping up with it to this point. Yes, it's essential. This, to me, though, officially kicked off everything with the Stones.
Definitely. I mean, we have our first real introduction of Thanos.
Yes.
He gets a couple of scenes. And so, obviously, he's the major villain of the Infinity Saga. We get our first official explanation of what the Infinity Stones are and where they came from. The Collector calls them ingots, you know.
Who is played by Del Toro.
Benicio Del Toro, yes. And so we get a little bit of knowledge. So, yes, absolutely, this is an essential movie. All right, so let's talk a little bit about the public expectation for this movie. I remember when this movie got announced, I follow a lot of movie news and stuff like that, and it was like, well, this is Marvel's first failure. Marvel Studios is going to fail. Nobody knows who these characters are. What are you talking about? A talking raccoon? A talking tree? Who are these? You know, as casting news came out, there was no major stars. Chris Pratt was not a star at that point.
Yeah,
he'd been in Parks and Rec.
Yeah, Parks and Rec.
And you know, people liked him, but he was not a movie star. You know, James Gunn was a pretty unknown director. People didn't really know him. You know, it really wasn't even a matter of if it would fail. It was how hard it's going to fail.
Exactly.
Right? That's what I remember hearing.
Same thing. I remember the exact same thing. You know, seeing the trailer. Now I've said.
Well, once we got to that. You know, but I'm just talking about before that. Everyone said this thing is going to fail.
And my thing is, and I've said it in other videos, I love the space heroes. If you know anything about me, space, my favorite hero is Silver Surfer. Very obscure character if you don't know much about Fantastic Four, obviously. So I was excited. But you're right. The concept was, you guys are bombing. Like, this was stupid. Why the heck are y'all doing this? Why?
And definitely, I mean, once that trailer hit, there was definitely, people changed their minds. There were still a lot of people on that train that this is going to fail. But I mean, I didn't know anything about it. I don't know anything about these characters. And I saw the trailer and I was like, I'm in. Like, 100%. This looks awesome. I didn't have any familiarity with any of the characters, but boy howdy was I there on opening night. I was like, this movie looks awesome. And first experience, I loved it. You know, so talk to me a little bit about your first experience. Do you remember seeing it in theater?
Yes, I do.
Okay.
My thing, even after the rewatch, it's still like this love-hate relationship. I love the movie and taking the comic book aspect away. I love the movie.
Yeah.
I love what it is. Adding anything comic book related, I hate the movie. And there's several reasons. I know you're not big on these guys, obviously.
I know all of the lore now.
Okay.
I know exactly what I've seen in the movies.
So, if you're a comic book fan, one of my main things that I have issues with is Drax's origin, the Nova Corps origin, and Peter Quill's association with everything. The Kree Empire, I do have a little beef with. I get what they did, and it sticks to the lore, somewhat. but there is still some beef I have with that.
Sure.
And that's where I don't like it. But as a movie, oh my god, I freaking love this movie.
Yeah.
I remember how much I loved it now.
Well, and definitely I would say I love this movie walking out.
Mm-hmm.
It immediately was one of my favorite superhero movies of all time. Definitely one of my favorite MCU movies, and it stayed up there. It's still rewatching it again. I was very excited to head back to watch this movie again. I enjoyed it just as much as I did. There's so many jokes, Fast and Furious coming at you. Some of them work better than others.
Yeah.
But overall, what really keeps me coming back to this movie and what sets it apart is it's got a lot of heart.
Yes.
So let's get into the plot before we talk about anything else. So this is a long plot description just to get into it. So enjoy, everyone.
Popcorn.
So again, we're in spoiler territory now. But so we get introduced basically Peter as a child. He watches his mom die. And is abducted by a spaceship. Boom, boom.
That still hurts, though.
Right? Oh, absolutely. So cut to 26 years later. He's now a Ravager, and he's, tracking down a mysterious orb, and also chasing after the orb, you've got Ronan's henchman. Star-Lord gets away with the orb, right? He's double-crossing Yondu by getting it and deciding to sell it. It was Yondu's plan. Mm-hmm. He's got it first. He's going to sell it on Xandar. So now Yondu puts a bounty on his head. Right?
40,000 credits.
40,000 credits, which we're going to talk about it. 40,000 units. One point later, they act like that's a big amount, and then later he says, I had to transfer him 30,000 units. And I'm like, wait. I'm confused. Anyways, so he's got a bounty on his head. So Gamora then gets dispatched by Ronan to retrieve the orb, and Rocket and Groot are on Xandar. They see him. He's got a bounty on his head. They're basically bounty hunters. So all of a sudden, there's 4 of them, and there's a fight that breaks out. Rocket and Groot are just trying to catch him. Gamora and he are fighting over the orb, and they get into a major fight, and they all get arrested by the Nova Corps, and they get sent to the kiln, the prison that they have there. While they're there, they meet Drax, who wants revenge on Ronan for killing his family.
Yep.
They kind of team up reluctantly. Star-Lord kind of convinces everyone we're going to be able to sell the orb, split the profits. We're going to lead you to Ronan, Drax. So it's all kind of just like he's just talking his way out of, let's escape from prison and make money, and I don't want to die. That's his whole plan, right?
Smooth talker.
That's right. So they break out of prison. They head to Nowhere, which is where they're going to sell the orb to the Collector, right? And that's where we reveal that the inside the orb is actually the Power Stone. And, basically, they are now trying to, it's discovered that there's the Power Stone, and it causes an explosion. Yep. So now Gamora is trying to convince everyone, we got to take it back to Xandar. We got to take it to the Nova Corps. Yeah. And nobody wants to really follow that plan. During all this, Drax has grown impatient with waiting for Ronan, so he calls Ronan. And
drunk, by the way. He's drunk.
Totally drunk. Calls him, decides, this is where we're at. So Ronan comes. Yondu also had figured out where they were at, so he ends up there. So now everybody's on Nowhere. The battle kind of breaks out. They get a little bit separated. Gamora and Star-Lord end up getting captured by Yondu. Nebula gets the orb back, and Ronan and she head off now to Xandar. They're going to destroy the planet. And at this point, Star-Lord then convinces Yondu to help them steal the Power Stone back from Ronan. And we get another huge battle. Groot sacrifices himself to save the group. And, we think that Ronan's destroyed, but then he's not. And it looks like he's about to win. But Star-Lord distracts him with the dance fight, and the team is able to basically use the Power Stone. They share the power amongst themselves. They kill Ronan. Nebula escapes. Star-Lord double-crosses Yondu again, gives him something in place of the Power Stone, gives him a troll doll from the 80s. Nice little callback there.
Oh, I love it.
And the movie ends with the Guardians together. They're heading off to parts unknown, and even Baby Groot is in a little flower pot, and he's dancing around. Yeah. So that's the movie in a nutshell. If you haven't seen it in a while, what stands out to you about this movie?
Honestly, the one thing that stands out to me is the humor.
Yeah.
This is something we haven't seen at this point in any other MCU movie. the humor to me is unique to this movie.
Yeah.
You know, like you said.
I mean, there's been funny MCU movies before, but this is the first true comedy. This is the first comedy of the MCU.
Yeah, and it pokes fun at itself so much.
Oh yeah.
You know, and I love the part where he gets captured, and it's the. Yeah, I don't know how this works.
Oh, how does it? Yeah, that was hilarious. Which was great because they kind of used that in the trailer, but then it wasn't the exact same joke, and so when we got it in the movie, it was even funnier.
It really was, Yeah. And to me, I mean, don't get me wrong, I love the visual effects of all the movies we've had so far, but this, I mean, they aim for the fences and they hit into the next arena.
Well, and it's totally different too. I mean, if you look at all of the movies up to this point, there's been 7, 8, 9, something like that.
Depends on how many videos we have.
Yeah. And they're all kind of very similar in their color palette, the way they're shot. They're very similar. Not necessarily in story or tone or characters, but they're shot pretty similarly.
Exactly.
And again, that color palette the same. This movie is totally different from a color palette, and it's very cosmic.
Very vibrant in the color scheme.
Absolutely.
The purple they use for the
so
stone
cool.
itself was just amazing. I mean, don't get me wrong, we had that red from Thor Dark World at this point, but that purple, the way it popped and the way they used the color scheme with it, mixed with the Nova using the gold, yellow kind of colors, all of it was very vibrant. Nowhere itself, too, it's
really cool. It's severed celestial head.
Yes. Yeah. And to me, that's so cool because that hints towards there's not just gods in this universe. There's celestials. There's a being beyond a god.
Yeah.
And I like the fact that if you watch this movie and watching it, this is like my 4th or 5th time I think altogether.
Sure. Yeah.
You get those subtle hints of what else is in this universe, this vast MCU universe that.
Yeah.
By this point, we're 2020 now. Kevin Feige has said, I want to explore the space stuff more.
The Guardians themselves are great. The way that they come together, each one of their introductions, I think, is really cool in the movie. I think the growth that they get throughout the movie is very believable. How they become a family.
Yeah.
It makes sense. Each time they make a decision, each time, you learn a little bit more about a Drax or a Rocket. Obviously you don't really know much about Groot, except he seems like the big sweetheart, right?
Yes.
That's kind of what he is. But the way that they come together, it's just very believable. The villain plot is totally weak.
Yeah.
Ronan is disposable, and I just don't care. Because I
forgettable.
love the rest of it.
Yeah.
I don't care that he doesn't matter.
To me, it was one of those, we need a plot point for them to all look at.
Yeah.
He's very forgettable. And to me, even in the comics, Ronan is a forgettable character, even in the comic books. But I do like that they used him because later in the comics, he actually does become a Guardian of the Galaxy at one point.
Interesting.
So it is interesting to see that it's kind of a little throw that this is our villain, but in reality, he actually joins us at one point.
Yeah.
But I love how you touch on the growth of everybody. I think one of my scenes that shows off the growth the most, and to me is a very believable scene, they're all drinking. Yeah. That's how we bond, that's...
Yeah, Rocket and Drax especially.
Yes.
Really, and there's that great back and forth between them where, they're very different.
Yes.
And, you can see in that moment that they're really... They're butting heads big time, and the next time you see them together is after Star-Lord and Gamora have been captured, and they basically have to decide to work together to help free them. And it works. It totally works.
It's they humanized everything, which I like, because to me this is something like I could go to a bar with this guy I just met, buddy, hey, I wanted to get to know this person more, let's hang out, and we got drunk, and I want to fight you, but you know what? We actually are on the same path, really, and eventually it does come out that they do actually like each other. Yeah. Especially at the end of the movie where you do see, spoilers obviously at this point, Groot does die. Right. And Drax doesn't know what to do because his race is a very literal race. Like, I don't believe in any sarcasm and all that. And he sees Rocket and he starts petting him. Yeah. That was so touching to finally see, like, they are friends. Mm-hmm. These guys have grown up already.
It's really cool. And this movie, I mean, it's action-packed, it's very funny, but what you just touched on there, the heart of this movie. Yes. We talked about that opening scene where he sees his mom die and, she's take my hand, and he's 8. He can't do it. No. Like, it's tough. He's very emotional in that moment, he can't do it. And that callback later in the movie where he's got the Power Stone and Gamora's saying, take my hand, and he kind of flashes and sees his mom, and he finally, he fulfills it. He takes her hand. It's emotional even now. Like, the heart of this movie is just so very strong. You really connect with a lot of the characters. The moment of where Rocket is drunk and he's talking about I didn't ask to get made and ripped apart over and over and over again. When Drax is talking about his family and how they died. I mean, each one of these characters really just has such a tragic backstory, and that's one of the scenes I want to talk about. Is it's very funny, but the heart of it is great when like Star-Lord is like, what? I look around and I see a bunch of losers. And they're all like, what? And he's like, people who have lost stuff. We've lost our families, our home. And so it's very funny, but it also is very, he's tying them all together. That we have all lost things, and now we have a chance to, actually care. We have a chance to come together. We have a chance to do something good. And it really is it's very heartwarming.
It is.
That's why this movie, to me, has endured. Yes, it's action-packed. Yes, it's funny. But it's because the characters all care about one another, and they all care about what they're doing, and we care about them. That's why this movie has stuck around.
It really has. And Star-Lord reminds me a lot of Captain America, but for space. He very much... Captain America, he's the guy that stands up on that pedestal, and you just want to fight with him. Yeah. And Star-Lord, he stands on the pedestal and he tries... But for some reason, you still want to fight beside him. It's like, I don't know why. You just made fun of me, and you're a smartass, but I'm still going to fight with you.
Yeah.
It's that charisma. It's that leadership behind him. And I like that they brought that to Star-Lord. That was something a little bit he was missing in the comics till he met Richard Rider, who is a Nova Corps member. Which, unfortunately, they don't touch on in this movie, which is where I do have a couple issues with.
I think we're going to get him in the third Guardians of the Galaxy movie when that comes out. But we'll see. We're talking about number 1.
Yeah. It's such a good movie, and like I said, I love doing these because I forget about this kind of movie. It's been about a good year probably since I've seen it, and I'm like, oh, gosh, watching it, like you said, so heartful. You get the heart, the jokes, the action. I mean, and this one to me is one of the first Marvel movies that's almost nonstop action from start to finish.
Yeah, there's a lot of action scenes in this movie, and the one that really stands out to me is the prison break scene. That's my favorite action scene of the whole movie. Again, it's a good blend of comedy and action alongside of it. Where, getting the leg, but even just the very beginning where Rocket's going over the plan, and he's like, we got to get that last, and Groot's already just grabbing it, and here you go, look what I got for you.
We can do that first.
There's a ton of name actors in this, but the main cast, at the time, obviously Bradley Cooper was probably the biggest name, but he's just a voice.
Right.
Vin Diesel was pretty big, but again, just a voice. Zoe Saldana, I would say, was probably the biggest actor of those three. Dave Bautista was a wrestler.
Yeah, this was his breakout role, essentially.
Absolutely.
I think he did a couple minor roles in some WWE movies.
Right.
Nothing actual... I mean, don't get me wrong, WWE movies are big budget, I'm sure, to an extent.
Yeah.
But it's not we are a big, huge, multi-million-dollar budget movie. So this was Dave Bautista's breakout role. Like you said, Chris Pratt, best known for Parks and Recs, as the chubby, goofy guy, too. This was our first scene where we see him ripped. I don't want to see him in a back alley at that point because he'd kick my ass.
Well, and I love, I'm going to rewind here. We've talked about a bunch of scenes, but I think what I love about this movie is the way it starts. You get that first opening scene with him as a kid, and it's very emotional, right? And we see him then, get abducted. And then the next time we see him, we get kind of this, he's in his mask, he's on this planet, the music is kind of a little bit ominous, we don't know what's going on, okay, it's 26 years later, and then all of a sudden, we kick in with, come and get your love, and he's dancing around, and it was like that moment where we went, that's the movie we're in for.
Exactly.
And it's so good.
Up perfectly.
It's so good. I love it. He's got little creatures that he's dancing around and singing. The running gag of, you've got a code name. I'm Star-Lord. And who? And that great moment where that gets paid off at the end when he goes, it's the actor's name is Jaimin Hansu, and he says, Star-Lord. Finally. There's a lot of really great gags in this movie, a lot of really great jokes.
Great writing, honestly.
I think this movie, again, it's really fantastic. To me, this is still 2014 is the best year the MCU's ever had. You had The Winter Soldier
Yes.
in May, followed up by Guardians of the Galaxy in August. Boom, boom.
Yeah.
These two movies are still in my top 5 of
Oh,
favorite
yeah.
MCU movies of
I'll
all
give you
time. And I think that definitely this movie stands the test of time.
You know, and I'm glad you commented earlier about the music. This movie had one of the best soundtracks, I think,
It's so
out of
good.
all of them.
Yeah.
You know, and again, I mean, maybe because I'm in my early 30s, it was all 80s kind of music,
Yeah.
70s, and to me, that's perfect for this kind of movie, especially a man essentially out of time from Earth.
Yeah.
You know, he still loves this. He still thinks, like, a common thing, Footloose. He's like, oh, it's Footloose. You know, I love it. It's such a great movie. Of Kevin Bacon, blah, blah, blah.
Right, yeah.
And it's like, really? Like,
Well, and it's
okay.
definitely something where obviously he was pulled out of pop culture at age 8 in 1988.
Exactly.
You know, so the things that he knows are what his mom, you know, that the music he listens to is music that his mom gave him.
Yep.
And, you know, obviously he's very connected to that.
Yeah.
And, you know, we get at the very end that she had given him a gift on her deathbed that he hadn't opened.
26 years now.
And he finally decides to open it. And the
Which-
reason that he does is because he has family again.
That makes sense. I was trying to figure out, like, while even watching, I was like, why did it take you 26 years to open it?
Yeah.
But that makes sense, you know.
He finally has family, and so now he's gonna find out what that gift was.
Yeah. And again, this to me
it's a
ties
new mixtape.
to the Volume 2, which second movie title.
It is, which is a great title.
Yeah.
And definitely, you know, I really enjoy a lot of music in this movie for sure.
It really do. And again, this to me ties that whole Captain America. Man out of time is Captain America, and essentially Peter's the same way with Earth. You know, he's experienced time in space with, you know, the Ravengers, Nova, and I'm sure he's experienced other aliens because he talks about at one point all the women he's been with.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, he's experienced outside of Earth's time frame, but on Earth, I mean, technically he's still, like you said, an 80s mindset kind of kid. And I like that. I like, again, to me, he's just very much Captain America in space.
Yeah.
I like that idea of having him this way because
he's a little bit more Iron Man in space, maybe?
I'll give you the technology.
Except you're right, he's more inspirational, but I just, in terms of his personality, he's much more like Iron Man than Captain America.
But yeah, they have a similar origin though, and I really think this movie, rewatching it, is still holds the test of time. First of all,
yeah, I was gonna say from a rewatch perspective, every time I revisit this movie, I'm like, man, I just love this movie.
Same.
Like it's one of those things where, you know, even though it's a very good movie and it is very memorable in parts, there's still stuff every time that get me. You know, all of those emotional scenes get me. There's a lot of jokes that get me. Even, you know, I talked about that scene where they're, you know, it's a bunch of losers and they finally all stand up and Rocket goes, now look at us, we're in a circle, bunch of jackasses standing here. And that line was actually ad-libbed by the actor who was in the mocap suit. So it wasn't a Bradley Cooper line originally.
Really?
Sean Gunn's brother, James Gunn's brother, Sean, who's one of the Ravagers in the movie, actually. So he's his own character.
Yeah.
But he was also Rocket on set as the, you know, mocap character. So he said that line, and they all loved it. They were like, man, that's a great line. And so then they made that part of the movie. Like,
that's so cool.
And it's a great hysterical
really
line. By the end of this movie, we know the location of 3 of the stones, right? We've got the Tesseract is in the vault on Asgard. We know that the Reality Stone, which was used in Thor: The Dark World, is now still with the Collector.
Yeah.
That's where it was left. And then we know that this movie has the Power Stone ending up with the Nova Corps as they're protecting it. But we don't know where any of the other stones are at that point. We just know those 3 for sure. But definitely, we're getting into, you know, the meat of the Infinity Saga for sure.
We really are. And I love how this kicked it off. And like you said, it's a PowerPoint presentation essentially at this point. It really, really is.
Yeah.
But I'm glad it did cover for anyone who didn't know. Hey, by the way, and you, like you said, you see the Tesseract and you see right next to it the Ether.
Right.
So it's like, okay, cool. We have those 2, and now we know this purple one isn't a stone. Yeah. And I do like that they show a mere mortal can't touch it.
Right.
Essentially because the girl, I forgot her name already, touches it and essentially explodes. Kalina. No!
Yeah.
Oh, well, there you go.
And she explodes. And then, you know, so when Star-Lord grabs it at the end, I mean, you don't know.
Exactly.
And then we find out, okay, he's got altered DNA. We set up the sequel. You know, your father was something ancient that we haven't seen here, you know. and so that sets up the sequel.
Yeah.
In case you didn't see this movie, in our next movie, which is Avengers: Age of Ultron, we get another PowerPoint presentation where we learn about Infinity Stones again.
Let's talk more about the stones, please.
But we'll be talking about that movie next time.
Yeah.
Before we get there, final rating for Guardians of the Galaxy. Final thoughts. We've talked about this movie a lot, but tell me, what are you thinking on this movie?
I will always say, I'm going to put it this way: as a comic book nerd side of it, I rate it low. As a movie side, though, as a movie, I'm going to give it a solid 8.5, just because, first of all, the visual effects are amazing.
Yep.
I think they hit that out of the park. They took the chance with the humor by poking fun at yourself the whole time.
Yeah.
That never let up, honestly. They took the chance with all the actors and actresses. I mean, I know every movie, technically, none of these guys really became big until after the movies, especially Robert Downey Jr., Chris Evans. So I really think they took a chance with everyone. Like you said, Bradley Cooper essentially being the biggest next to Vin Diesel, and they're just voices.
Yeah.
So with all of that being said, graphics, the storyline, I think it was really, really well put together. Great cast with this movie and the future ones we'll see.
Mm-hmm.
I think that Marvel did the right choice by saying, James Gunn, take a chance.
Yeah, I agree. I'm gonna come in even higher than you.
Oh,
This movie to me is near perfect. We did talk about some of those downfalls, like the villain, Ronan, who's totally weak.
very forgettable.
Karen Gillan as Nebula, I'm not totally on board with her performance in this movie. She's so good in every one of the other ones. The Guardians sequel, Infinity War, Endgame, she's really good. In this one, I'm not sure about her. There's definitely some scenes where I'm like, I feel like you're not who I want you to be in this movie at this point. But even with that said, the villains, I don't really care about.
No.
This movie's about the Guardians, and everything with them is so good that I don't care that the villain stuff falls short. So for me, this is a 9.5 out of 10.
Nice.
This is near perfect.
Dang.
I love this movie.
So
It basically is the same rating as Captain America: Winter Soldier. And if you ask me, today, which one I like better, maybe it's Guardians. If you ask me tomorrow, maybe it's Winter Soldier.
Yeah.
They're like, they're both so good.
Before we finish this, what did you think of how they introduced their name, though? With Ronan comes out, Guardians of the Galaxy.
Yeah,
did they even...
It's weird.
Okay.
So this is a fantastic movie.
Yes.
If you haven't seen it and you watched this whole video, I don't know what's the matter with you, because we told you we were going to spoil it, and we did.
But go see it anyway.
But go watch this movie. It is so good. It's fantastic. It still holds up. If you haven't seen it in a few years and you're going, well, I'll just watch this recap, go back and watch it anyways. It's so good.
Watch
this movie's so good.
Then watch that.
Absolutely. So next time we are going to be talking about Avengers: Age of Ultron, the follow-up sequel to the original The Avengers.
Yep.
There are people that maybe have only seen the Avengers movies.
Yeah.
And so maybe you're one of those and you've been joining us on this journey. Thank you so much. Definitely like, comment, subscribe, and let us know your thoughts on this movie. Did you love it as much as we did? Maybe you don't like it. Maybe you're a comic nerd like this guy and you go, they messed up too many things for me. I'm just not on board. But either way, let us know. We want to engage with you. We want to talk with you. We want to know what keeps you geeky, what makes you geek. So again, for Get Your Geek On, I'm Robert. That's Aaron. Thanks again for watching, guys. And what keeps you geeky? Just do it.